Is cancer and mental health the same? What is the connection? How can you even compare the two? Cancer is life's calamity. It's a terminal illness which kills, devastates, and ruptures the living relationships, but over a period of time gives closure to the primary caregivers. On the other hand, we have mental health, which is almost like slow death. It mars your identity, brings down the quality of life, and ruptures your living relationships to a point where it can nurture a traumatized environment. How many cancer survivors has this TED stage seen? The hope, the strength, and the courage that they give is unparalleled. But how many speak about their mental health, the stigma, the silent suffering and trauma that they hide behind? I am Dr. Paalini. Allow me to scare you with some data. The World Health Organization tells us that cancer is the leading cause of death. 1 in 8 women and 1 in 10 men around the world die in cancer. It is the same WHO which tells us 1 in 8 around the world suffer in a mental illness, which is 970 million people. We have anxiety and depression topping the charts at 300 and 280 million. Hold your breath. We have 23 million of them suffering from depression who are children. Yes, the generation that we work so hard for suffer in depression, and we have a choice of doing something about it. We also have bipolar disorders at 40 million, post traumatic disorders at 42 million, schizophrenia at 24 million, eating disorders at 14 million, criminal behavior at 40 million, and neurodevelopmental disorders at 30 million. All these variety of mental illnesses are real. The pain, the trauma, and the suffering is absolutely real. But what is unreal is the stigma attached to it. On a lighter note, they say in our country, 1 in 4 suffer in mental illness, which means if you are hanging out with your friends and three of them look okay, you are the one. Yes, mental health is our social, psychological, and emotional well being. It's the way we think, we feel, and act. Mental health deals with the way you relate with stress, make meaningful relationships, and try making meaningful contributions to the world that we live in. But is all this so very easy? Of course not, because life keeps throwing curveballs at you. There are a lot of factors that affect our mental health: the childhood trauma that we go through, the environment that we live in, the biology of the person, and also the lifestyle that we have. What is so unfortunate is mental health cannot be observed like human physical health. But we do have this interest to check the weighing scale, to look into stock market, to read the planetary predictions and even the weather forecast. So why is that we don't have the interest in us to look within, to make observations and observe what is happening in you? Have you and I observed the kind of eating disorders that we have? Overeating, undereating. Have you found yourself feeling lonely and in despair over a period of time? Have you battled with feelings of anger, confusion, guilt, and pain? Do you hear voices? Do you find yourself wanting to be in darkness, being reclusive, and avoiding people? Is your consumption of alcohol, tobacco, or substance more than the normal? Do you find your energy levels dip down and your daily routine tampered? Have you and I at any point of time observed any of this? Of course, yes. And why is that? For a simple reason that we are not mathematical formulas, but emotional beings. And once these observations are not dealt with, they can turn fatal. It can mar your identity, ruin the most meaningful relationship that you build your entire life, and lead it to a point of no recovery. As I stand in front of you, allow me to share my untold story with you all. Being a very scared, timid, aimless child, life has never been easy. Being an academically low student, battling with a lisp, I have been bullied by a lot of people around me: my friends, my teachers, my classmates, even my parents. It led me to a point of darkness and gloom. Adolescence came by, making it even more clueless because I was battling for this purpose to live, wondering if I even had a purpose. Continued abuse and loneliness and despair led me to this point where I hit rock bottom. And that's when I turned suicidal. There hasn't been a day or night I have not wept myself to sleep. One such dark night, I realized there's absolutely no one around me, and it's just me, myself, and I. That was when I took 100% responsibility over my life. I focused, goal set, walked out of school as a leader and an inspiration. I moved on to study psychology only to understand myself, heal myself, and make my living relationships a bit more meaningful. Little did I realize that I would top the university, get the gold medal, and also receive the Governor's Award for State Academic Excellence. At a very young age of 21, I was invited to be a lecturer from the topmost college in the city. I was a super hit that I became a counselor. I created my identity. And yes, there was no looking back after that. Years went by, but I still had this void in me. And that's when I met my soulmate. I decided to marry him. But that one decision I made in life brought me rolling back down, brought me to my lowest ever. The insult, the disgrace, and the pain, and the ruthless rudeness that I was surrounded with engulfed me to a point where I crumbled from within. But as I lay crumbled, I realized I have a choice to succumb to this pain or to rise above. I obviously chose to rise above. I read somewhere this man who said, I want to inspire, I want to write, I want to evoke, I want to make my audience emotional. Sadly, he spent the rest of his life in an office reading error messages. Well, I didn't want to land up that way. I moved on to build my identity. I did my MPhil and MBA, garnered gold medals in both. I worked myself through a PhD where I derived a therapeutic technique to build the balance between the body, mind, and soul. This gave me knowledge and a platform and a beautiful time of 20 years, which made me a counseling psychologist, an associate professor, a creator, director, and founder of a rehabilitative home. I widened my horizons and moved on to become an industrial entrepreneur leading a group of companies. I realized that I had an impact on the lives of many, and I felt there was a moral responsibility that I had to the world that I live in. And that is when I qualified and certified myself as an international life coach. Today, as I stand in front of you, I'm on a mission to transform as many lives as I can. So, how did all this happen? How did I work myself through? How did this child suffering from poor mental health transform herself into an adult advocating mental health? What I formulated for myself as a success mantra is what I'm here to share with you all. I called it the 5 steps to success. My number one go to was to make myself an emotionally intelligent person. Becoming emotionally intelligent was my first step in garnering myself in combating the world around me. Emotional intelligence is the way we understand, use, and relate with our emotions in a positive way, which makes us handle stress, communicate effectively, empathize with people, and reduce the conflict. There are a lot of factors that affect our emotional intelligence. We have self management, self awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. So, this combination of intrinsic and extrinsic factors brings about that balance in life. Your emotional reactivity and the relevant consequences that you face marks your position in the world around you. Your perception, your control, and communication can take you to the next dimension. The magic lies there. And that's exactly why we have companies today focus their interviews around EQ and not IQ. They would definitely want an employee with a higher EQ than a higher IQ. What is lovely is it's a skill set, which means it can be improved, enhanced, and need not be naturally present in you. And once you make yourself an emotionally intelligent person, you would realize finding clarity and happiness inside and outside becomes so much more easy. Becoming an emotionally intelligent person gave me a state of readiness to do my PhD. And that's where I realized I formed my second step to success. I derived a therapeutic technique and I coined it TTT, where I married fraternities of transpersonal psychology and a 12-step program followed in self help groups. Transpersonal psychology is a holistic approach which addresses the client's physical, social, psychological, emotional, intellectual, and creative needs, thereby facilitating healing and growth. This, combined with the 12-step program, which is basically an inner work in spite of hitting rock bottom in life, and helps them to resurrect. This gave me a daily routine, which I combined and followed consistently. As I followed this over years, I realized it had an enigmatic effect on my body, mind, and soul. And that is when my third step to success came by building an equilibrium between my body, mind, and soul. Realizing that all these three realms are equally important: working out in the gym, exercising, pilates, yoga, meditation, coordination between your thought and action, building your perceptual field, forming affirmations, manifestations, your vision board, maintaining a journal. Absolutely everything that you could do in your capacity to build that body, to build that mind, and to build that soul. And these are like three monkeys. So aligning them is a constant process. But then once you do this, the base and the foundation that you get is eternal. But can you do this on your own? No, because you are not a free floating organism. We thrive in a society, a culture, which means we do need people around us to support us, to emancipate what we are going towards. And that was my fourth step, the most difficult step for me, but was pivotal. Creating a support system. Create that nest of people who are positive minded, who are like minded, and promote and enhance your goal. Now, this is very difficult for Indians because we are all the time, oh, what would she say? What would he think? What if he robs my idea? We have a lot of factors preventing us. Break free. Yeah, break free. Break free from yourself and all that binds you. Move on. The right priorities, the right perception will help you select the right kind of people that you build. This promotes you. This builds your embryo. This travel with the four steps led me to my fifth step, which was finding happiness. And mind you, this was not my goal, but just a process. My travel over the four steps realized made me feel that I could feel happy from within. Today, we are all running after something. Why, where, how, and what are we running for? Slow down. Yeah, just slow down. Learn to laugh, learn to smile, learn to look within. Because all those answers that you want lies within you. There is no counselor, no doctor, and no therapist who can bring in answers from the outside, but in you. Myself, Dr. Paalini Selvan, request you and challenge you to spend those moments and watch over your untold story. Reach out to yourself. Reach out to yourself if you realize that you have had your mental health affected. Reach out to the world around you when you know that they need help because you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are enough.